Welcome everyone, Dylan Gemelli here today with a brand new video for you. So today we are going to talk about how to use and dose Anadrol. But before we get into that, just a huge thank you to everybody out there. I'm sure you can see the channel growing at a much more rapid rate. More likes, more comments, more subs. It's doing nothing but help us grow, and I cannot express enough gratitude to each and every one of you. Now, if you subscribe to the channel, which I truly hope you do, make sure to click that bell icon so you don't miss any of the updates from YouTube every time I upload new content. And also make sure to follow my podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Google. That's all of these videos that I have going are in podcast form, so that's really nice to have as well. But let's talk about the subject at hand today, and that is how to use and dose Anadrol. Now, let me start by saying this. I love Anadrol. I truly, truly do, and that's kind of catch some people off guard because I don't like to run bulking cycles, and we know Anadrol is one of the best bulking compounds out there. But my experiences with it, and I'll do a separate video on just my experiences with Anadrol, have been spectacular, okay? And I find most all DHT compounds to be right up my alley, and we know that Anadrol is slightly different. It's got some alterations, and it acts quite differently than things like Winstrol, Primobolan, Masteron, Anavar, our normal DHTs. And it does have some estrogenic side effects, even though it doesn't convert to estrogen, which is an anomaly in itself. But Anadrol is excellent. However, it is definitely not for an inexperienced user. As a newer user in your first couple cycles, you do not want to use Anadrol. It is far too harsh and too strong, and I strongly urge you to reconsider if you're thinking about it. If you're looking early on, start with something more like a D-ball or a Deca, something like that, that's not nearly as strong. It's not going to cause nearly as many side effects for you and be as nearly hard on you. Look, Anadrol is very toxic. Now, it's all oral steroids have an alteration, all right, and then that's allowing it to pass through the liver, and because of this alteration, it's causing you toxicity. I've covered this several times. All right, so we have to be very, very cautious and run our on-cycle supports to protect ourselves. Anadrol just happens to be harsher, all right? My main concern with Anadrol is not the liver, it's the blood pressure. It's going to hit your liver, and it's definitely something you got to address and you got to be careful of. But the blood pressure is what I see more people have trouble with Anadrol. I am a 10-mile-a-day runner, and I year-round take compounds to protect me all the way around. I use Entugard, for example, and that protects me in all aspects, and I just take it year-round because I'm pushing 40. And it really helps. And being a runner also helps with my blood pressure. And I didn't have problems with Anadrol, but so many people do. My liver got blasted with Anadrol, I will tell you that much, even with protection. But for most people, blood pressure is going to be the #1 part of it. You still got to worry about cholesterol, kidneys, all the other things that you need to worry about. But please keep an eye on that blood pressure, and please make sure you're protecting yourself. Blood work is imperative with any compound you run, but especially with things more harsh. All right? I recommend not exceeding 4 weeks with Anadrol. All right? You can go up to 6 weeks if you like. I don't recommend it. It's not something that I do, and if you ask me, I'm going to tell you don't do it. But I'm also not going to try to attempt to be the end-all, be-all and tell you you can't. Just think more long-term. That's all I'm going to tell you, and know that even those extra 2 weeks are going to really cause a lot of strain on your body. There's always a threshold for things, all right? It's just like, can I spend $20? Well, you keep adding 20, 20, 20 on, and before you know it, you're like $500 over budget. It's just like with compounds. Well, I'm just going to bump it a little here, a little, and before you know it, you're like double the dose or double the length. So there is always an end-all, be-all, and you got to be careful to not push it too far. My recommend starting dose is 50 milligrams, and it's completely fine to run that the entire way through. And it's also completely fine to start at 25 milligrams. I've done that before and still had tremendous results. You will still see results at 25 milligrams, but 50 milligrams is a general starting point. All right? Now, you can bump it to 100 milligrams. I would urge you to wait a couple weeks before you even consider that, because you can't really tell how harsh it is on you till after a couple weeks in. You might think that you're gold after 10 days, but you very well might not be. Give it time to really work, all right? So just be patient. Don't try to get too greedy with it. You can always increase it, but if you go too high, you're screwed. You know, you're already taking hits on your cycle. You're hurting yourself. You're making it harder to work out. You're causing yourself more problems that you could easily avoid by not being greedy. Keep that in mind. Now, I've made mention of this several times. It is a DHT derivative that does not convert to estrogen, however, has estrogenic side effects. So an aromatase inhibitor like Arimidex or Aromacin is not going to help you here. Now, a lot of people opt for Novadex or Raloxifene to help, and or Proviron. Proviron is not an aromatase inhibitor, but can provide a little bit of help. So I am not a big Novadex fan when it comes to estrogen conversion, and it's certainly not, it's just an estrogen blocker. So using it with things that convert to estrogen is not ideal. It's just like a mitigator, a band-aid to a wound. But that is what you would want to consider to prevent estrogenic side effects with Anadrol, that or Raloxifene. That is completely up to you, but those are the two that I have found over all this time to be the most beneficial and most helpful. Look, just don't get greedy with it. Be smart, and you will be having yourself an excellent experience. But you've got to be smart about it and don't try to do too much. Anadrol can be your friend, and it can also be a big enemy. A lot of strength, a lot of size, and just keep in mind, not for inexperienced users. So, that being said, that is how to use and dose Anadrol. Feel free to message me. I can link you to my logs of when I've ran Anadrol in the past. You can kind of see what I've done with it. But Anadrol, like I said, 4 to 6 weeks. Don't go over that. Please do yourself a favor. Just don't get greedy. That being said, stay tuned for plenty more to come. Dylan Gemelli, signing off.